So apologies about that. We had to suddenly cut off because of some technicality, but continuing on from where we left off. So I'm just going to share the slides with you, and let's move on from where we left off. So here we are. So we were comparing fractions, trying to find out which is larger, which is smaller. So we had already done all of this, and here, these should be your answer. Okay, so we are changing a half, okay, and trying to find out half and a third. So we're trying to change both into a common denominator. So the common denominator that both had was 6. So it's 3/6 and 2/6, which is larger, obviously 3/6, and 3/6 is back to the original figure, which is half. All right, I want you to do the same thing with these, please. Okay, so pause the video and play once you've got everything. Pause the video, write your answers, and then compare. Okay, so let's play. So you've done this. I'm hoping that you've done the same thing. You've written out the multiples of both numbers and then compared the final equivalent fraction, which one is bigger, and then you come back to the original fraction and said, oh, either this fraction or that fraction is larger. So 2a, the answer should be 4/5. 2b, the answer should be also 4/5. 2c, the answer should be 1.5, and 2d, the answer should be 1 5/6. Okay, so that's the answer there. Okay, now moving on to the next bit, writing fractions. But before I just move on, notice what some of you probably had difficulty up here is with, you probably had difficulty with mixed fractions. Now, if you have had difficulty with mixed fractions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just share a screen with you so we can actually go through mixed fractions. Yes, here. So improper fractions and mixed fractions. So improper, change these mixed numbers, mixed fractions into improper fractions. I'd like you to go through the video. Again, pause anytime, but listen carefully. And on the right-hand side, notice that on the right-hand side, we have lots of hints that are quite important as well. Okay, so let's get ready for this. All right, notice that they want their final answer in improper fraction. So when they want the final answer in improper fraction, this is what we call an improper fraction, where the top number is heavy. The top number is bigger than the bottom number. So the numerator is bigger than the denominator. That is called an improper fraction. Something that we've already covered before. Let's go to the next one now. Right. So once again, 1 times 8, okay, 1 multiplied by the denominator, 1 times 8 is 8, plus the number at the top, which is 7, and then you divide all of that by the original denominator, which is 8. So let's work that out. 1 times 8 is 8, plus 7 is 8 times 8 plus 7, therefore 15. And here, 8, 8, 8. You got the denominator 8 all the time, but that is your final answer. Okay, now let's continue. Okay, there you go. Now, at any time, okay, if ever you get stuck, you will understand that what we need to do is make sure that you just follow those principles, follow those things, and that should be fine. Anyway, coming back onto where we left off, okay, the next thing, writing fractions, right? What fraction of an hour is 20 minutes? So we need to know full hour. How many minutes in a full hour? 60. Therefore, 20 divided by 60. That would give us a fraction, 20 over 60. One moment. Right. So now, if I get this, share that with you. There we go. Right. So, right, what fraction of an hour is 20 minutes? So, as I mentioned, 20 over 60. So we should already have this information. 1 minute equals 60 seconds, 1 hour equals 60 minutes, 1 day equals 24 hours. 20 over 60, we can actually simplify it to 1/3. So what fraction of an hour is 20 minutes? 1/3 of an hour. Okay. The fraction is in its simplest form. What fraction of a day is 10 hours? And question number 2, what fraction of an hour is 75 minutes? Pause the video, and 5 seconds after you've written your answers, okay, I'll play again. Okay, so what fraction of a day is 10 hours? So it should be 10 over how many hours in a full day? 24. 10 over 24, then you'd simplify it. So 10 over 24, that is the initial fraction we start off with. Simplifying it's 5/12. What fraction of an hour is 75 minutes? Oh, tricky here, because an hour consists of 60 minutes. But here we have what fraction of an hour is 75 minutes. We've got 15 minutes extra. So what do we do here? Well, 75 over 60. 75 over 60. And then we have to convert this mixed improper number into a proper fraction with a whole number. So how many 60 is going to 75? 1. And what's left over? It's 15. And 15 over 60, that is the part that we actually simplify. Leave the 1 alone. We only continue simplifying 15 over 60. This is called a so the final answer is 1 1/4. This is called a mixed number, 1 1/4. Right, moving on. How many minutes in 1/4 of an hour? Pause the video. Right, hopefully you've got this. So we have how many minutes in 1/4 of an hour? Well, we know that a full hour has 60 minutes, and a quarter, a very easy way of finding it out, okay, if you didn't already know, well, most of you should know that a quarter is 15 minutes, but if you were to work it out, if you had to work it out, what would you do? 60 times a quarter, which is, you see the number at the bottom, which is called the denominator. You take 60 and you divide it by 4, and then times it by 1, times it by the numerator. That will give you 15 minutes. If you did that on the calculator, look, it says divide by denominator times by numerator. Divide by denominator times by numerator. Follow that procedure all the time. You can't go wrong. Okay, question number 2. How many minutes in 3/4 of an hour? Pause the video and play again once you've got your answer. Right, so it's 60 times by 3/4. 60 times by 3/4. Now, when you 60 times by 3/4, again, look up here. It's divided by the denominator times by, so you take 60 divided by 4 times by 3 here. It's already written out. 60 divided by 4 times by 3 equals 45 minutes. Next one, how many hours and minutes in 1.5 hours? How many hours and minutes in 1.5 hours? How many hours? Pause the video. Play again. All right, so here it is, 1 hour and 30 minutes. Let's move on. Calculating with fractions, adding and subtracting fractions. Now, when we got 2 different fractions and we're adding them together, what's the final answer? Now, this is a bit where I need you to stay focused. Okay, entry 3 people, you can get back onto your worksheets now. You don't need to carry on any further, but everybody else, stay focused. Okay, so write each fraction with a common denominator. So we've got 1/2 plus 3/4. So first of all, what's the common denominator? What number, multiples of 2 and multiples of 4, write them down, and which common denominator do they both share? Right, so you will find out that if you were to write 1/2 and 3/4, the common denominator that both share is 4. So split the first box into 4, okay, and then shade 1/2. Split the second box into 4 and shade 3 of those boxes. This is what we have. And now I'm starting off with the easy explanation. Later on in the actual exam, you might not have time to always draw boxes and shade and do that, etc. But there are easy ways of doing it, but we need to go through step by step. Okay, so first of all, 2, here's the denominator. We found that the denominator is 4. So what did I do to the 2 to make it into 4? I had to times it by 2. If I times the bottom by 2, I have to times the top by 2. So this 1/2, can you see here? Very, very important. This 1/2 has converted into 2/4. This is the equivalent fraction. But the 3/4 has stayed the same because I didn't have to change anything there. Now all I've got to do is add them together. How many wholes and what fraction remains? Okay, so 2 plus 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5. Okay, and how many whole squares do I have? I've got 1 whole square there, and I've got another, well, it's not entire whole square, I've just got 1 whole square, and I've just started with another fraction. So what can we do? I've got 5/4. So you know the denominator here, just leave them as it is. Okay, in the final answer, just add, all you do is you add the numerators. The 2 plus 3 equals 5, 5/4. If I'm going too fast, pause, go slowly, go back, carry on, okay, at a time, one at a time. So here we are, okay, 5/4. Now 5/4, this is what we call an improper fraction. The top number is too big. We need the bottom number to be big. And the way to do this, convert it into a mixed format, is to ask ourselves, how many 4s go into 5? How many 4s can go into 5? Okay, 1. Therefore, we write down 1 whole. And then the numerator will, the denominator, sorry, will still stay the same. And from the 5, what's left over? Okay, so how many 4s can go into, what's left over? The remainder is 1. That 1 is what we write at the top, 1. So it was 1 1/4. Again, if this is too difficult, pause, go over these initial bits so that you can answer the following questions. Okay, now, by the way, that's adding and subtracting. Okay, adding and subtracting, you always find the common denominator and then just add or subtract the number at the top. The next one, multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions is very, very easy. Okay, 1/2 times 3/4. It's very easy, simple, straightforward. What is 1 times 3 and what is 2 times 4? 1 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8. Multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and your final answer is 3/8. So multiplying fractions is very easy. The numerators, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and that is your final answer. If you can simplify, make sure you simplify. Now, okay, there is one part left, and that is dividing. I want to actually show you how to do the dividing. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. How do I? I need to just quickly see what's going on. There we go. So I'm going to share a screen with you to actually show you how to divide fractions. Very, very important. Dividing fractions. And again, right, so this is the bit. Now, this is the bit. So first and foremost, what have you done? You've actually tried to figure this out here. So the 2 and 2/5, you've turned that into an improper fraction. Once you've turned it into an improper fraction, the only thing that you need to do, okay, you've got 9/10 divided by 12/5, which is the improper fraction. Then all you need to inverse it. Inverse means the last fraction, change the numbers, change the numerator into the denominator and the denominator into the numerator. You've changed it over, and replace the divide symbol with multiplication. Okay, so look at this. Multiply the normal way. 9 times 5 and 10 times 12. Right, so there's a tip here. Some people, they actually, before they even do the calculation, they simplify now at this moment, right? And this is a process. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't worry. You can always simplify towards the end. Right, so that is the final answer, okay, in simplified form. Let's go to part B. 7.5 divided by 2 5/8. Okay, so we've got 2 mixed numbers. Both of them this time round, you will need to convert them into improper fraction, which means that the numerator is going to be bigger than the denominator. So how many 7s go? 7 times 2 is 14, and plus 1 is 15. 15/2. Now, what would we do? So we've got the equivalent fraction mixed improper, the improper fraction, and we've got the improper fraction of 2 5/8, which is 21/8. Now we're going to rewrite it out, but the final fraction, we are going to inverse them, okay, turn them upside down, and change the division symbol to a multiplication. So this is just the simplification process. So you don't need to actually follow through with this if you're unable to do it. You can always simplify right at the end. Very important, because here it is an improper fraction. So we need to go back and write it properly. Okay, so if at all, under any circumstances, that was, what can I say, that was easy to understand that, and that's brilliant. But if at all, under any circumstances, it was difficult, always go back and check out the rest of the video. All right, let's move back to my original PowerPoint that we were on. So here, look at this, try to understand this, okay? All these different things that we have, very, very important, okay? You can always use this: equivalent fractions, comparing fractions, writing fractions, and calculating with fractions. Now you can go on to the, you can actually go back and you can read that. Thank you very much for going through the video. If at all you're finding anything difficult, like I said, okay, get in touch with one of the teachers, one of ourselves, and go over the video. You can now go and answer all the questions on the worksheet. Thank you very much. See you next time.